I went to visit my mother's grave, and I forgot something there. When I came back at midnight, the grave was gone. No headstone, no flowers, no turned earth. Just a smooth patch of grass that had never been dug. Walking out of that cemetery, I had one question in my head. Where did they put my mother? Before I tell you what happened, I should probably explain the rules. We've split this video into 4 difficulty levels: easy, hard, nightmare, and impossible. The vast majority of viewers are too scared to make it past easy. We want to know how far you can go. So when it's over, drop a comment and tell us which level you reached. And just so you know, a jump scare could hit at any level. Now, let's begin. The night visit. The day they discharged me from the hospital, the weather was beautiful. I remember that because on my way out, a nurse told me I was lucky, and I looked at the sunlight outside and felt absolutely nothing. My name is Wesley Prentice. I was 31 at the time, living in Kansas City, working as a tech for an HVAC company. My mother Marlene died that February. It wasn't a long illness. 3 weeks, a diagnosis, and then it was over. I used to think deaths like that were more merciful. They're not. Being short just makes the goodbye short too. We buried her at Mount Moriah, the big cemetery on the south side, west of Highway 71. My father wasn't around. I don't have any siblings. And there were 12 people at the funeral. 7 of those 12 were from my mother's church choir. The man who spoke over the casket had never met her. He called her Darlene twice, and nobody corrected him. I didn't either. I didn't have it in me to open my mouth that day. The grave was in section 14, about 40 steps in from the edge of the road. To the left of it, there's a double headstone in black granite, 2 names on it and a rose carved between them. To the right, there's a small flat marker set into the ground. My mother's stone sat between the 2 of them, light gray, plain. I could find that spot with my eyes closed. I'm saying this because when I've told the rest of it, people have said I must have gotten confused. I don't get that spot confused. At the end of April, on a Saturday, I went out there alone for the first time. I had her reading glasses with me. They'd turned up in one of the boxes when I was clearing out her house. Thin metal frames, the plastic tip of the right arm chewed flat, because she used to bite it when she was thinking. I carried those glasses in my pocket for 6 weeks. That day, I decided to leave them. I crouched in front of the stone, smoothed the grass with my hand, and set the glasses on the top edge of it. I didn't talk. I've seen people talk out loud at graves, and I respect it, but I can't do it. I stood there about 5 minutes, then I got up, went back to my car, and drove home. Around 7 that evening, I was standing in the kitchen with the refrigerator door open, having forgotten what I was looking for. And that's when it hit me. I'd left the glasses out there. I'd meant to. That was the whole point. But leaving something while you're sitting there is not the same as picturing it out in the rain all night, in the wind, under the feet of strangers. It started like a leak in my head. I held out for an hour. Then I grabbed my keys. The main gate at Mount Moriah closes at 8. I knew that. But there's a second entrance at the north end that the maintenance vehicles use, and that gate is usually only chained shut for appearance. I lifted the chain and drove in. It was 11 o'clock. I didn't kill my headlights, but I didn't put on the high beams either. The paved road inside the cemetery makes a wide S, and I stopped at the second curve of that S. I got out. I had the flashlight on my phone. It was late April, maybe 54 degrees out, but it was colder inside those gates. Cemeteries are always a little colder. There's a scientific explanation for it, trees and moisture and shade. I know that. The back of your neck doesn't know it. I walked 40 steps. I found the black granite double, the one with the rose. I swung the light to the right and found the flat marker. There was nothing between them. No stone. That was the first thing I registered, and my stupid first thought was that they'd removed it. Maybe it was damaged, maybe they'd taken it for repair. That happens. Then I lowered the light. There was no disturbed earth either. Here's what I mean. You can tell a new grave. It takes a year, sometimes longer, for the sod to settle. The seams show, the color doesn't match, The middle sinks a little. My mother's grave was 2.5 months old. That sod should have been there. The grass under my hand was even, all one piece. No seams, no depression, no difference in color. I got down on my knees, pressed my palm into it, worked my fingers down into the grass. The ground was packed. Packed like ground nobody had touched in years. Between two headstones, in the exact spot where my mother should have been, there was earth that had never been opened. I stood up so fast my head swam for a second. I looked right, I looked left, I checked the numbers. Black granite, rows, 2 names. Flat marker, 1,994. I was in the right place. I don't get that spot confused. I walked for a while after that. I don't know how long. I wandered between sections, ran the light down the rows, read the names. I was trying to talk myself into something. Maybe I had the section wrong. Maybe it was 16, not 14. Maybe those 2 months after the funeral had erased part of my brain and I hadn't noticed. But the names weren't familiar. None of them. The further I walked, the stranger they got. That's when I saw the light on the maintenance building. Low brick structure at the west end, 1 yellow bulb over the door. The door was open. Inside there was a desk, a radio, a space heater, and a man. He was in a groundskeeper's uniform with a name tag on his chest that read R. Doss. He wasn't in the chair. He was on the floor beside it, back against the wall, head fallen onto his shoulder, a tipped-over bottle next to him. The room smelled like vodka and the burnt dust smell of the heater. I took him by the shoulder and shook him. His eyes came open part way. He looked at me, but not at me, a little off to the side of me. His mouth tried to make a word and nothing came out. Then his head went back down. Section 14, I said. My own voice sounded strange in that room. There was a grave in 14. In February. Marlene Prentice. He didn't move. His breathing came out with a whistle in it. I looked at the desk. There was a logbook on it, plastic cover, spiral bound. I opened it. Dates, names, section numbers, all in handwriting. I found the February pages. I ran my finger down the lines. There were 7 names on that page, and not one of them was my mother. I closed the book. My hand was shaking, and I watched it shake, like it belonged to somebody else. Then I walked out. I didn't run on the way back to the car. I say that specifically because I've thought about it 100 times since. Why didn't I run? The answer is that running would have meant admitting something was behind me, and that night I was still refusing to admit it. I went out through the north gate. The chain scraped down the side of the car. I heard it, and I didn't care. I got on the ramp for Highway 71. It was past midnight. The road was empty. There wasn't a single set of taillights ahead of me. About 2 miles in, the cold started. It wasn't the air. The windows were up. The heater was running. Warm air was blowing at my feet. This was in one spot on the back of my neck, no bigger than a palm, like that narrow, heavy draft that touches your bare arm when you open a refrigerator. It was behind me, and it was inside the car. I checked the rear view. The back seat was empty. Dark, but empty. I turned the heat up. Stupid, but that's what people do. The cold stayed exactly where it was. Didn't grow, didn't shrink, like somebody was sitting behind me staring at that one spot without breathing. Then the cold moved down. From my neck to my shoulder, from my shoulder to my back, into the space between the seat and my spine. I'm not saying I let go of the wheel. I'm not saying I slowed down. The only thing I did was turn my head. My mother was sitting in the back seat. Her face looked the way it had that last week in the hospital, only further along. Much further along. The skin pulled down over the bone, and her eyes were open, and those eyes weren't looking at me. They were looking through me at the road. Her mouth hung slightly open. She had on the dress we buried her in, the navy one, but the dress was wet, and the seat had gone dark underneath her. It lasted a second, maybe less. Then the back seat was empty, and the wheel had turned under my hands. The right tires caught the shoulder. I heard the gravel. I tried to correct, and I overcorrected. After that, it comes in pieces. The sound of metal on the barrier, the windshield going white all at once. A spinning feeling, but not sideways. More like the car was tipping one way while something inside me slid the other, then everything pulling away, like somebody turning the volume down. They found me near dawn. Broken right collarbone, 3 ribs, 11 stitches in my head from the steering wheel. I was in the hospital 9 days. The police ran a blood alcohol test, and it came back clean. The report said, possible fatigue-related inattention. A doctor explained to me what grief does to the human brain. He was calm and kind about it, and I didn't argue with a single word. After the 4th day, I stopped telling anyone what I'd seen. The guy who towed the car only asked me one thing. He asked who left the back window open. I never once opened the back window on that car. 2 weeks after they discharged me, I went back to Mount Moriah. I went, in daylight, through the front gate, and I walked to Section 14. The stone was there. Marlene Prentice. The right dates. The sod hadn't taken yet. The seams showed the middle had sunk a little, exactly the way it should have. There was a woman in the office, not our DOS. She pulled the records up on her computer and turned the screen toward me. February, Section 14, my mother's name. The interment date right next to it. She was kind about it. She got me a glass of water and said it was possible I'd gotten something mixed up, and there wasn't the slightest trace of mockery in her voice. That summer, while I was healing up, I had a lot of time. I spent it searching the name of that cemetery. There wasn't much, but there was something. In 1977, a small item in a local paper. A man called the police at night, saying he couldn't find his wife's grave. By morning, the grave was where it was supposed to be. The article ends with a line about him being judged intoxicated. In 1998, someone else, a nurse, called the maintenance office with the same complaint. She was in a car accident the following week, but the article never connects the two. In 2011, a forum thread. 3 replies, then nothing. None of it was ever taken seriously. Every one of them, taken alone, looks explainable. Lined up next to each other, they don't. There's only one thing I still wonder about. That night, the man in the maintenance building had left the door open and the light on and the bottle empty. Maybe he had a reason to drink like that. Maybe he had that reason every single night. Or maybe he'd just learned never to go outside.